Hi, I'm Megan Skidmore, and this is the Beyond the Shadow of Doubt. I'm a woman, daughter, sister, spouse, mother, life coach, and person of faith on a mission to normalize asking questions and allowing doubts, not only in a faith journey, but in all aspects of life. Join me in bringing this traditionally taboo topic out of the shadows of shame and into the light. I'm a firm believer that we normalize through more talking and engaging in discussion. More talking peels back, exposes, and erases the layers of shame associated with questions and doubts. When we're more authentic about our journey, we are more powerful because shame has no power in the face of authenticity. Before beginning this episode, I wanted to include a content warning. Although not discussed in detail, in this piece there are mentions of child abuse, sexual abuse, and trauma as related to recent LDS church litigation. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome and thanks for joining part 2 of my interview with Charlotte Condie. If you haven't already, make sure to listen to part 1 in episode 45. Today we pick up where we left off talking about the effect her struggles with scrupulosity has had on her faith journey. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this or any episode. Shoot me an email at hello@meganskidmorecoaching.com. Where would you say, you've talked a lot about the journey itself and the different, places that it's taken you or your family. How do you move forward? How have you learned to move forward? Because of, not in spite of, but because of these different scenarios that you have come up in your life, your family's life. How do you make your way?
So I think the important thing to talk about would be my experience with scrupulosity and how it had manifested, particularly in my early 20s and as a young parent, but came up again. It just roared when I started to really understand my own sexuality, so much self-hatred is involved in that, and self-judgment. You're constantly trying to do everything that's right, and you want checklists, you want directions, you want specifics of how to make this right. And I think it's really seated in that very human feeling of you need control. You need to be able to control your destiny, your environment, whatever it is, so you can feel safe. You don't feel safe, so you need to control something. And because the end of the day, when we pull it back, at 30,000 feet or whatever, there really are no answers. And we can say that we know something, but when it comes to spirituality or religion, and this sounds so heretical, maybe to a lot of people, there are no answers. There really are no answers. And because my experience with scrupulosity and religious OCD has been traumatic and painful, the only answer I've really found is that I have to actually lean into uncertainty. I have to.
That is so powerful.
Yeah, I have to actually let go of everything that seems like an answer, because those are sources of obsession, which then become religious compulsion. I can't do that anymore. And I know it seems confusing, because for the bulk of people who participate in church culture, all of these primary answers are so simple and so easy, but they actually cause me tremendous harm.
Wow.
And I will obsess about them. I will put all of my faith in those things rather than that one simple thing, which is Christ Jesus and his grace. And so I think maybe to step back, one of my children had decided they were going to step away from the church for a while. And I understood they were dealing with a lot of stuff. And it was really hard for my spouse. And it was hard for me because this had never happened before. And I really didn't know what to do, but it kind of started something new for me, because it's funny in our theology, because we say that, families are forever. But with that comes that idea of a sad heaven where there's going to be empty chairs, because at the end of the day, somebody may make a choice and they're not going to be with the family. And so it's heaven, but it's not really heaven. And that was like a spiral point for me, because I was like, that makes no sense. And I had to outright reject the entire Mormon concept of the afterlife, because it was too painful. It was absolutely too painful. It created too much of an obsession, but it created more problems than it solved. And when you think about it, our theology actually is the only one that says families can't be together forever, because we create that possibility. Everyone else believes that they can.
So
now,
if I can, I looked up a definition that I want to share to help our listeners that may not be familiar with scrupulosity and exactly what it is and how it shows up. Scrupulosity is the psychological disorder primarily characterized by pathological guilt or obsession associated with moral or religious issues that is often accompanied by compulsive moral or religious observance and is highly distressing and maladaptive. The exact cause of scrupulosity is not known, but like other forms of OCD, scrupulosity may be the result of several factors, including genetic and environmental influences. Scrupulosity can respond to the same treatments as those used with other forms of OCD. So I just wanted to.
And I'm sorry. I should have come up with that definition.
No, don't apologize. This is really good to know, though, because I am sure there are those in the families of my listeners who have loved ones that are in fact suffering from this.
And maybe from my experience, because it's not just scrupulosity, it sits in this umbrella of anxiety disorder, which I absolutely have, and I take medication for, and it definitely helps me live my life. And when I'm on my medication, my scrupulosity is really easy to handle. I know it's there, it's background noise, but it doesn't really affect my life that much. But I think because I have an anxiety disorder, and because I grew up in a very high demand conservative religion that is full of black and white thinking everywhere, that was a perfect recipe for scrupulosity. And I actually did an art show with several artists of an art collective, The Archive, at Written Vision in Provo just this last December, exploring and discussing the topic of scrupulosity within the Mormon community. And I myself and two other artists curated the entire thing, and it was all artists who live with this. And it was a tremendous show. All the voices sharing their experience, and they're all unique, but all the same. And we were really blessed that BYU acquired the entire show from us. Wow. The library bought it. Yeah.
That is wonderful. I think that's so important. And I know drew awareness and educated many people about this concern, this condition. I don't know the right word. I don't want to sound disparaging in how I refer to it.
I mean, in a way it is a disease, because I'll never be rid of it. I've learned to live with it. But it's not really something I don't think that can be cured. If anyone has, I would love to meet them and know their secret.
So I love that you brought up your art. As they say, art imitates life. Yeah. Can you expand a little bit more on what you just started to share with us regarding
Sure.
your art and how it in fact does imitate parts of your life and even your faith journey.
Yeah. So, like, I've always been a creative kid. I think letting myself live into the reality of my sexuality, as well as my experience with scrupulosity and my own questions and concerns regarding spirituality and the church, didn't just open a door for me creatively, but I feel like it started a new chapter with the way that I am speaking through my art. With that show, I made 5 pieces, and out of that 5 pieces I had used one book of Mormon doctrine. I took it apart, I dyed the pages, I cut them into pieces and created mosaic images of my experience with scrupulosity. And it resonated so much with other people on so many levels, particularly the community that has had questions, that has left the church, that is suffering from a lot of religious trauma. It spoke to them. And I suddenly felt like I had my calling. And so now I sometimes will put calls out for books. I'm saying anyone who has any old Mormon books that they are thinking of getting rid of, send them to me and I'll use them. And really, besides getting free resources for making art with, it's taking something that is part of our lives that we can never divorce ourselves from, because it is so much a part of us, but it also has caused us a lot of harm. Literally deconstructing it, taking it apart and turning it into something beautiful and constructive and uplifting, I feel like is one of the most healing things for me and the community. And I was surprised when BYU bought it. But that meant a lot, that somebody somewhere feels like my voice is important and that what I have to say is worth hearing. And not just me, but people who are telling my similar story. And that gave me hope that the people who feel like they have been shut out or silenced or kicked out for whatever their reasons, still need to be heard. And
I agree 100%. I mean, Christ set the bar there, we could say. Christ showed us the example, and it's recorded in more than one gospel, how he left the 99 and went after the one. I believe so deeply that your individual story, all of our individual stories, are so important and so valued, and they are needed. And so I am so happy to hear that curation of art was honored and was recognized. I would love to leave a link in the show notes of where listeners could go and see that online.
I have it up on my page, and I even have links to the
I will make sure
article as well that was written. Yeah.
Okay, I will make sure and do that.
Yeah.
But thank you for bringing attention to that. If there's one thing I really know and believe is, no matter how different your story might be, it's still valid and it's still worth listening to. And it's actually, more importantly, it's there for us to learn from and to do better from, by exposing ourselves to things outside of what we know and what, quote, our norm might be. So that's just beautiful. Wow, Charlotte, I've been gifted with so many things from you from our discussion today. I really appreciate this opportunity to get to know you more, things that I didn't know previously about you, and specifically about your faith journey, which is interlaced with all of the other aspects. Our spiritual, I also believe so strongly, our spiritual journeys are so interlaced with our emotional, our mental, our physical, intellectual journeys, for sure. Anything else that you have on your mind that you would like to leave with our listeners?
I feel like I haven't even I feel like when I came in, I was like, I have so much to say, and I don't know what is the right thing to say. I think
There's no right or wrong. It's all good stuff.
Because where I am now, like my feet are so firmly planted in Christianity because it's my home, and my toes are just holding so, as strong as I can to the church, because I think, so here's the thing. And I know that people still won't understand this when I say it, because I take my temple covenants very seriously, but what they are specific instructions on really how to live out those two commandments that Christ gave us, to love God and our neighbor. And it has to do with how we are personally, but particularly how we are as a community. And that's why it's hard for me to completely disassociate myself from the church, even though I don't participate in the way that I used to, because I believe that any community that wants to do good deserves the chance to live out the mandate that they believe in. I support that. And I'm not at all trying to destroy the church or any religious organization. I love it enough to hold it accountable. And I mean, just as much as I cannot divorce myself from being an American, I can't entirely ever divorce myself from Mormonism, however much I might want to, because I have been blessed in countless ways by the community, by the institution, and directly I can say it was the subsidized education that got me my degree. It was the subsidized adoption fees that got me my children. I owe the community so much, and because of that, I take the institution to task. The thing that I guess people would call the shelf breaker for me was the AP report about the child abuse. And it wasn't that the abuse happened so much as the church continues to litigate, or at least lobby for and pay for the lawyer fees that supports their right to not report on any sexual abuse that may be said within a bishop's interview. They maintain that right. And I also have to say, though, that this is a problem that plagues almost every Christian denomination in the world. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I cannot abide. I love Christianity, and it has given my life tremendous richness and joy, and it's how I understand God personally. Mm-hmm. But I absolutely cannot abide any institution that uses its money to litigate for and lobby for its right to protect predators. And I know that's not how they see it, but they are powerful enough to change their own rules. They are powerful enough to fix this tomorrow. It is not a doctrinal issue. It is not a scriptural issue. It's a policy issue, and it could be fixed tomorrow. And that is only the start. I have a laundry list, I think 13 points of things that I want to see changed, that until they do, I can't come back the way I used to. I forfeited my temple recommend in November because I had written letters to Salt Lake, and I had written letters to my local leaders saying, this is the problem. And if it can't be fixed, I cannot pay tithing anymore, and I cannot support the leadership. Mm-hmm. And until it's fixed, I will not do that. And so at my tithing declaration, my bishop asked, do you still feel this way? And I said, yes. And he said, okay, we need to put your temple recommend on hold. And so that is no longer something I have access to. And I understood that that was going to happen. And I felt it was a sacrifice I was willing to make, because if this is Christ Church, it's not acting like Christ Church. And I have to hold it accountable. And I spend many of my Sundays with the Episcopal Church now, not because they're better, but because they're trying, and they have apologized for their past sins. They welcome and sanction queer marriage. They ordain women. They do all the things that I wish our church would do. And they are transparent with how they spend their money. And so really, I attend two churches and pay tithing to neither. I can't say I believe in truth with a capital T anymore. I don't believe in objective truth. I believe that we're all doing the best we can as human beings. And I think my view is so expansive. I can no longer look into the eyes of another person and tell them they're wrong, or that I know better for them when I don't even know their lived experience. For me, there's a modern theologian I love, Donnell McClelland, McLaughlin, who says that religion is like language. And that really resonated with me, because we can't really help what church we're born into. And sometimes our religion doesn't give us the language to articulate really how we feel inside, however best it tries. And while my religion that I was born into has done so much for me and blessed my life, it's falling short of giving me the tools I have to articulate the way I feel about God. I don't believe that we all have to believe the same thing for salvation. I don't believe that we're all going to be the same in heaven. And I believe that God is something I will never truly understand or know in this life. And I have to rest assured in the not knowing. It's called mystery in other Christian denominations, and I have to dig into mystery because that is all I have. And I know that doesn't resonate with some people. Some people absolutely want the answers. They want to know something.
Well, I think, Charlotte, your own lived experience has brought you to the point that you are at, both experiencing scrupulosity, which is a form of OCD, your experience of PCOS, and how that presented your opportunities for having a family in a non-traditional, I say that loosely, I don't like over categorizing types of words, but just the family that many don't have the opportunity to create. Is that an okay way to say?
Yeah.
One thing you said a minute ago that resonates with me is something that to the effect, there are certain things that once you see them, which is another way of saying understand them or experience them, you cannot unsee them. That would go against your truth, your heart, your alignment as a spiritual and mental and physical being. If there's one thing I've really learned, is that alignment, that mind, body, soul alignment is such a pure and a grounding space from which to move forward, from which to create your life's journey. And I appreciate you sharing yours, because I truly believe that living our truth, this is our journey, and we learn by doing. following our heart, following our soul, and doing that in partnership with the divine as we create that path, that experience alone is priceless. That ability to learn how to live in congruence with who the divine is for you in your life is something that really we can read others' experiences about it. We can hear others' stories about it, but to really personally learn it and then try to apply it in the now, in the present moment, is something that we must learn for ourselves in the doing and the speaking and the acting. And so I appreciate you being open and candid and vulnerable with me and with those who are listening. It's not easy, and I think that's why not everybody does it. And you sometimes are opening yourself up to feedback from others, sometimes unsolicited. So just know, and I think you do, this space that I'm creating here in this podcast is a safe space. My hope is that through those who come on and share their stories, and then those who listen will feel that it is safe and that I am here to listen and to hold your heart and to hold space while you share. One last question that I like to ask my guests, and I love it because each guest puts a different spin on it based on what their life experience is, I think, is what does it mean to you to live beyond the shadow of doubt?
So it was just this last year when all of this really happened, when I came out, when I started really vocalizing my problems with the church and what I believed, I began this intentional practice. It maybe had started before because I'm a lonely person and I seek out genuine friendships. It's important to me, and it's hard to make sometimes in these ages where we're all so busy. But I just call it abiding in love, where when I see somebody and I meet them, I look for God in them, and I am never ever disappointed because
Goodness,
I always see God there. And when I do that, I fall in love all over again. And if it's the closest thing I ever feel to Christ when I do that. And that's what shores up every single day for me, is that I know that there are little pieces of the divine walking all over there. And they just need to be seen.
wow, that
And
gave me chills. Wow, that's just so beautiful. And that's not even adequately expressing what I'm feeling. That's just a really amazing perspective. Thank you for sharing that so much. Yeah. Look for God in everyone. I'm going to do that more. Well, I have a few questions that I ask that I don't tell my guests about. So we're kind of shifting from feeling kind of somber here, but these are for fun questions. Okay. So they just give me a one word answer, one or two. Okay. Do you have a favorite book?
It's funny. I don't know if I can say I have a favorite one book, but the book that changed my life, there's a few of those books that everybody has that like kind of changes their whole life, was Silence by Shusaku Endo. Shusaku Endo. So it was required reading for me as an Asian studies major, but it's something I think they may read in like a divinity school, because it's about the Catholic priests in Japan during the samurai era, and how it was Japan's first contact with Christianity, with the West. And that first contact was through the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church was creating these small communities. And it was about the persecution and the eventual demise of the Christian church within Japan in that period, and how they tortured Christians. The thesis is that this priest, and they actually made a movie about it, and I haven't watched it yet, but I really wanted to. The thesis is really, how are you living out Christ's mandate when it's not your life that's you're giving up, but it's other people's lives. When you hold other people's lives in your hands, what are you willing to do for God? And it's a really difficult question. Like, in it, it's often maybe feels like that question of, and I know people like to pause this, where can I love God more than I love man? Or can I love man more than I love God? When in truth, those things are the same. But some people like to turn them into separate things. And that's where you get this problem.
Well,
So
that sounds fascinating.
yeah, it's fascinating. It's heartbreaking. It's hard to read, but it's just one of those books that changes your life.
That's fabulous. Well, tell us, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I think, I don't know. I crave people. I'm lonely a lot. But I've noticed over the last few years, I get tired after a while. After being around people, I need to decompress.
Well,
so I don't know
truly believe
what that means.
Go right down the middle. I believe that you can be half and half.
Okay.
What about a favorite artist? Probably yourself.
You know, I do stuff, and then I spend so much time with it, I begin to hate it. And like, I had this collaboration with a friend of mine, and he sent it back to me, and I was supposed to do something on it, and I haven't told him yet, but I'm not going to do it because I just hate looking at it. I can't stand it anymore. I'm just like, I'm not even going to do this because I hate it. I think it's hard. It's kind of a tie, and they're popular, and it's easy to love them. But I love Frida Kahlo because she was honest and she was real. She's like this tremendous bisexual icon who I adore because she was herself, and she took no crap off her husband. Like, I love her for it. But Vincent van Gogh too, because he was so misunderstood, and he saw the world in a way that nobody else did. And he died a pauper, and it wasn't until he was dead that we saw him. And it's such a tale of sad truth that we don't appreciate the people in our lives until they're gone.
Wow. True. What about, do you consider yourself a night owl or a morning lark?
I am a morning lark.
Oh, good for you.
I want to go to bed early. My toddler won't let me, but I want to get up early.
Probably just for this period of time, right?
Yes.
Do you do still or carbonated water?
I like fizzy water. I like it. Yeah.
What about the furthest place you've traveled?
China.
Oh,
I went to China at the end of my freshman year in college, right before I met my husband.
That is on my bucket list for sure.
It was a long time ago. I'm sure it's very different now.
And the last question is, do you have a celebrity crush?
Oh dear. Pedro Pascal is in right now. I mean, it's hard not to like him.
Okay, I don't know who that is. Oh my goodness.
What? Have you watched The Mandalorian?
Oh no, I haven't.
Oh well, that's your homework then.
Okay,
to go watch The Mandalorian. But you don't really see his face until second season because he wears it.
Noted. I will take note of that. So tell our listeners where they can find you. your website, or if social media
You
is
can
like,
find me at charlottecondiart.com,
okay.
and my Instagram page is just Charlotte Condie Art. That's me.
Okay. So those are the
Mhm.
two best places to find you.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, a mom of 4,
Thank
traveling
you.
all over, to be here with me today.
Thank you, Megan. It was such a pleasure.
Same. Thanks for listening to part 2 of my interview with Charlotte Condie. See the show notes for more information about the Scrupulosity art show she was a part of in December of 2022, which was purchased by BYU, Brigham Young University. Also, don't forget to enter my giveaway. First prize is a $100 gift card. To do so, simply leave a review and a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and upload a screenshot to my Google Doc. Share this giveaway with a friend. If your friend's name is drawn as winner, you both receive a $100 gift card. All the details and the link to enter is in the show notes or in the bio of my Instagram. Come join me in Hopeful Spaces, a Dallas Hope Charities component of Hopeful Discussions, which is sponsored by Mercedes-Benz Financial Services USA. Hopeful Spaces is a monthly parent, caregiver, and ally support group facilitated by Megan Skidmore Coaching. To join is free. Simply send an email to chc@dallashopecharities.org. Visit meganskidmorecoaching.com, where you can find this podcast, as well as additional free resources. Check the podcast show notes on any platform for links to sources cited. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram for more and to send me a DM. To help the podcast grow, please follow, rate, and review, as well as share it with a friend. Beyond the Shadow of Doubt is a proud member of the Dialogue Podcast Network, which is a part of the Dialogue Journal found at dialoguejournal.com/podcast network. Founder Eugene England was a Mormon writer, teacher, and scholar who wrote, "My faith encourages my curiosity and awe. It thrusts me out into relationship with all creation and encourages me to enter into dialogue. My hope is that this podcast is an extension of that vision." Thanks for being here. Until next time.